بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأشرف الأنبياء المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعك بإحسان الدين أما بعد. Welcome everybody to today's session. Inshallah, today we're going to go through a small booklet called 10 Lessons of Ramadan, which also includes a section of different types of optional prayers, Nawāfil Salah, as well as supplications and du'as from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just a few things to keep in mind before we start is that all questions will be answered towards the end, inshallah. So if you have any questions, please do put it in the comment section, and inshallah we'll try and answer the questions throughout in the session, at the end of the session. If we cannot, inshallah, if you can leave a message on the WhatsApp number, which is 078 57 58 59 60, or you can email us at communityoutreachuk@gmail.com, and inshallah we will try our utmost best to get back to you as soon as possible. So the reason why we are studying today this small booklet is there's a lot of virtues of seeking knowledge. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said in a hadith that seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every single Muslim, male or female. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He also mentions the verse. He says, "It is only those who have knowledge amongst His servants that fear Allah." So the month of Ramadan is just about to commence, and to get the full fruits of Ramadan, we can, inshallah, we hopefully through the study of this booklet, we can gain full rewards of Ramadan, inshallah, and the full fruits of Ramadan. So this booklet that we have in front of us is actually our fifth edition that we printed. The first one we actually printed in 2013. And alhamdulillah, we've taught it quite a few times previously as well. This is the first time we're teaching you online, in fact. It's quite a simple layout that there's 10 lessons only, and this is the context of the booklet. Inshallah, this workshop will be uploaded on YouTube, and then there'll be a link to download this PDF of this booklet also. We've also got printed ones. If there's somebody local within Burnley, Pendle areas, you can always contact us for a free copy, inshallah. So the 10 lessons that we are going to go through, the first lesson is about what is the month of Ramadan, an introduction to Ramadan. Lesson number 2, the importance of intention and niyyah. The third lesson we will go through is about who fasts and who is exempt from fasting. Lesson number 4, what is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in completing fast and suhoor and iftar and so forth. Lesson number 5, a very important moral and behavior in Ramadan during fasting. Number 6, prayers in Ramadan, so that will include Tarawih, Nawāfil, Salah, Tahajjud and so forth. Lesson number 7 will include charity during Ramadan, which is Sadaqatul Fitr, Zakat, and Lillah, and different types of charity the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave and also encouraged us to give. Lesson number 8, extra rewards in Ramadan. Lesson number 9, i'tikaf, or spiritual retreat. And the final lesson number 10, is about Eid al-Fitr and the fast in Shawwal. And towards the end of the booklet, we've got a hadith on Ramadan and du'as in Ramadan. And we've also got a section on optional prayers, on Nawāfil Salah from the Sunnah. So inshallah, we'll go through the text of the lessons, and where needed, I will inshallah comment and explain. If something is not, if you don't understand a certain point, please note it down, put it on the question on the comment section and ask a question, inshallah. And towards the end, inshallah, we will refer back to that. So lesson number 1, what we will learn in this lesson is what is Ramadan, what is the method of fasting, and the time of fasting. So the month of Ramadan is observing Sawm, fasting. So Sawm in Arabic, what we call fast. Linguistically, Sawm, or fasting, it means to refrain. So whether it's from speaking, actions, or eating, is to refrain. And in Sharia, or in terms of Islamic jurisprudence, in fiqh, So, or fasting is referring to is abstaining during the day from allowing anything to enter the stomach, whether intentionally or by mistake, or that which takes the same legal status as the stomach. In addition, fasting is to abstain from sexual gratification with the intention of fasting, and this person who fits the criteria of fasting. So there's quite a few things to take in mind. But if we look at a couple of paragraphs down, the way of fasting is to abstain from eating. It's basically that what the Islamic Sharia has prescribed as fasting is that we abstain ourselves from food and drinking and sexual gratification from from dawn till dusk. But apart from that, we will also learn that there's morals and manners that we're supposed to have during the daylight hours also. So it carries on to say, so that's so. The fasting is prescribed during the daylight hours of the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. So the Islamic calendar also has 12 months. So Ramadān, Shawwal, Zulqa'dah, Zulhijjah, and so forth. So the 9th month of the Islamic calendar is known as Ramadān. So before Ramadan, currently the month is Sha'ban. We're in the month of Sha'ban, and Sha'ban is coming to an end, and then Ramadan will commence. So there's a hadith, one of the sections we will go through is when to start Ramadan and when to end Ramadan. That's the Hazrat Ibn Umar says that when the moon is sighted, start Ramadan, and when the moon is sighted, end Ramadan. So there's a day between the end of Sha'ban and the beginning of Ramadan, which is called the day of doubt. So the day of doubt is after the 29th day of Sha'ban, due to overcast, like in this country, in UK, it's sometimes difficult to view the moon. So most of the time it's virtually difficult to view the moon, to see the moon because of the overcast. So that, because the moon is concealed, it's known as the day of doubt. It is disliked to fast during this day except a voluntary fast that one is firm about with no wavering in the intention between it and other fasts. So what that means is after the 29th of Sha'ban, if it's 29th of Sha'ban, so then the 30th of Sha'ban we'll say. The 30th of Sha'ban can either be the 30th of Sha'ban or it can be the 1st of Ramadan, because the Islamic months can have 29 days or 30 days. So the 30th of Sha'ban can actually be either the 30th of Sha'ban or the 1st of Ramadan. So the Prophet ﷺ and the Sharia has said that we should try and avoid fasting that day. But if we are firm in our intention that we can fast, and it's a voluntary fast, that we won't be wavering in our intention that I'll fast as a voluntary one, but if it is Ramadan, it will be a farz fast. We can't have that. We can't combine two intentions that are a farz and a nafil. We can't do that. So if you can do that, then it's fine. If you cannot, then you should leave out that fast. It's saying that also the Prophet ﷺ used to fast a lot in the month of Sha'ban. It is said in the hadith that the dua the Prophet ﷺ is to recite from Rajab, Allahu barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa ballighna Ramadan. And the hadith states that Rajab is the month of Allah and Sha'ban is the month of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ says Ramadan is the month of my ummah. So in the month of Sha'ban, the Prophet ﷺ used to fast so much. The Azwaj Mutahharat say that he used to consecutively fast, and we used to think that he's not going to stop fasting. But it is advised that a couple of days before Ramadan, like from now till Ramadan, there's only 3-4 days or 5 days left, 3-4 days left till Ramadan. We should stop fasting, the Nawafil fast, because one is so we don't clash with the day of doubt. Number two is that we gain some strength to fast in Ramadan. So every Muslim, going back to the text, every Muslim who meets certain requirements is required to fast from dawn till dusk. Inshallah, we'll come towards the end of the page to back to this. Allah says, fasting is one of the 5 pillars of the Islamic faith. Ibn Umar says in a hadith, بُنِيَ الْإِسْلَامُ عَلَى خَمْسٍ شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وصوم رمضان, the 4th day, وحج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا. That's the 4th pillar of Islam. So every Muslim who meets certain requirements is required to fast from dawn till dusk. Allah says in the Quran about prescribing of fasting, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those before you, so that you may learn self-restraint or taqwa. So the way of fasting is to abstain from eating and drinking. So this paragraph explains what is fasting according to the Islamic perspective. So the first one we said, so legal term in the dictionary terminology, it means to restrain. And in the Islamic terminology, what do we restrain from? From food, from drinking, from cohabitation, from dawn till dusk. The Prophet of Allah ﷺ says, whosoever doesn't give up lying and acts of lies during fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no need for him giving up food and drink. So the fasting has these two things with fasting. One is the physical way of fasting, which is that we restrain ourselves from food, drinking, and cohabitation. But the spiritual way of fasting is also we stay away from sin. You know, Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi has said that fasting is of three levels or three categories of people. So the lowest level, the lowest level of category of fasting is that we refrain ourselves from the three things which are haram, which are food, drinking, and cohabitation. That is the basic level of fasting. So that every individual Muslim who meets the criteria of fasting with Bali and so forth that's the level we have to do. So that person, he may not be doing any good deeds, or he may not be refraining from sin, but he refrains himself from eating, drinking, and cohabitation. His fast is valid. That's the lowest level. The second level is fasting from sin also. So that person also does the three things. He refrains himself from food, drink, and cohabitation. But also the second level, what he does is also refrain from sin. So refrain from physical. So this is what the Prophet was saying about this hadith, that lying, deceit, and cheating, and so forth, backbiting. This is the second level of person. Imam Ghazali says the third level, the highest level of people of fasting is the fasting of the heart and the fasting of the mind. Where a person, yes, he refrains from food, drinking, cohabitation. Secondly, he also refrains from physical and mental sins, bad thought. He refrains from backbiting, ghibat, and so forth, lying. But thirdly, he also refrains from the sins of the heart, which is even the thought of a sin. That's the highest level of fasting. That's what we have to aim towards. So carrying on, in addition to lying, all other forms of undesirable behaviors, i.e. backbiting, fighting, spreading rumors, false testimonies, should be avoided. So the conditions of every Muslim who is required to fast, it is obligatory to perform the current Ramadan as well as making a unperformed Ramadan, which was missed provided one meets four conditions. So there's four conditions of a person who has to meet these criteria for fasting to be fard upon him. Number one, he is a Muslim. Yeah, so fasting is only fard upon for those who have Islam, who are Muslims. Number two, who is sane, who has sanity, who is not pagal, who is sane, mentally well. Number three, maturity, who is baligh. So in Sharia, in Islam, so there's four ways or four things that can determine a person becoming baligh or mature, or where things become fard upon them. You know, namaz and so forth become fard upon them. Fasting, when does they be mature? One is they have a wet dream. A child has a wet dream. Number B is a girl. She at the age of 9, she gets haze. Or number 3 is a girl becomes pregnant before haze. So sometimes haze, the bleeding of haze is delayed, so medical reason. But that person, so imagine sometimes a woman in the age of 17, 18, even 20 plus, she gets haze. Just bear with me. Maulana, can you hear me?
Ji Maulana, yeah.
Okay, all right, so that's fine. So a girl, she gets pregnant before she gets haze. So that also is a sign of bulugh or sign of maturity. And the last thing, a boy or a girl, so they don't get haze. A girl does not get haze. A girl does not become pregnant before haze. They don't. Both boys and girls, they don't get a wet dream. So what is the age limit? So there's a stipulated age limit for them to become baligh, which is 14 and a half or 15. 15, you can say for the Georgian calendar. So those above the age of 14 and a half, 15, is fard upon them to fast. Yeah, who are Muslims, sane and mature. And number 4, to have knowledge that it is obligatory. This is for the one who accepts Islam. So the 4th one, most of us, all of us in fact know that in the month of Ramadan, it is fard to fast. So we have the knowledge. So Muslims, maturity, sanity, and the knowledge that Islam has prescribed fasting.
Maulana, can you just move to page 5? We can't see the explanation.
This one?
Page 5.
This is page 5.
All right, okay. Sorry.
This is what I'm talking about.
Okay, so that
okay. So that's the first thing. And then it says about sexual restraint or sexual gratification, that fasting breaks drinking and eating and drinking and sexual acts. To abstain from sexual gratification such as sexual intercourse or to emit sexual discharge due to foreplay, that also breaks fast. We will go through that in a few more lessons, inshallah. So that's lesson number 1, where we have learned the introduction of what is fasting and what is the month of Ramadan. Moving to lesson number 2, the importance of intention. I'm not going to go through the whole text. I'll go through the few things. Umar al-Khattab says in the hadith of Bukhari, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, actions are according to their intentions. You know, there's a prescribed, the hadith has said that we don't have to, so the Sharia has said that we don't have to literally say the intention with our tongues. We can say it in our hearts. Now, it is not essential to utter the words. So the intention can be in Arabic, in Bangla, in English, whatever language. But this is the Arabic text that we find in the Sunnah. بِصَوْمِ غَدٍ نَوَيْتُ مِنْ شَهْرِ رَمَضَانَ. There's other versions of this dua. This is one of the most simplest one. بِصَوْمِ غَدٍ نَوَيْتُ مِنْ شَهْرِ رَمَضَانَ. Now, when the intention of fasting is to have a firm in the heart, a firm intention in the heart, in one's resolve in the heart upon the act, in order to distinguish between one act from another. So, for example, like going back to the example of the day of doubt, which is the 30th of Sha'ban or the 1st of Ramadan. So you have the intention has to be firm that either you are fasting Ramadan fast or either you are fasting the Nafil fast. You can't say that I'm fasting a Nafil fast, but if it's Ramadan, I'll be Ramadan. No. The intention has to be firm to distinguish between the two things. Like the example we also can give of the Fajr Salah. The Fajr Salah has 2 sunnat mu'akkada and 2 farz. So if in both units of Fajr sunnats and farz, if we were to recite the same 2 surahs, the only thing distinguishing between these 4 rak'ats is the intention. The first 2 rak'ats we make intention for sunnah, and the second 2 rak'ats we make intention for farz. So that's the only thing distinguishing behind it. So the intention has to be made daily. So every day of Ramadan. So somebody cannot say in the 1st of Ramadan, I make intention for the full 30 days of Ramadan. The reason being is because every day is an individual act. So on the first day you get one reward. It's an individual act. Second day, third day, fourth, and so forth. Because you don't know, especially for women, that if they start to have their menstrual period, they have to stop fasting. So they can't stipulate what days they're fasting. Or for example, if you have an accident or you fall severely ill that you can't fast, so then the situation changes. So every day we have to make a fast. So we have to make the intention for the first fast. Now, when is it preferably to do the niyat of fasting? You can make the niyat. The fasting of the following day of Ramadan can be made from the previous day Maghrib. So from Maghrib, it can be started. So the recommended time for intention to make an intention for the fast of Ramadan is from Maghrib all the way to dawn. So that time is recommended. It is also allowed if somebody forgets, if somebody sleeps, or somebody forgets to make intention, you are allowed to make the intention for fasting of Ramadan all the way till Zawal, which is Shari'i midday. So today, nowadays, is about 12 o'clock or half 12, 1 o'clock even, about half past 12, 1 o'clock Zawal. So just before the entrance of Zohar Namaz, that time, Zawal time. So the fast only starts when the new crescent moon Hilal is sighted, signaling in the beginning of Ramadan on the next day. So Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu related that the Prophet said, do not start fasting unless you see the new moon, and do not end the fasting until you see it. If the weather is cloudy, then calculate when it should appear. I'm not going to go into dive into the discussion of the moon sighting issue. It's always something that throughout the whole world there's 2 parties or 3 parties. So just follow your local masjid and local ulama, inshallah, you will be correct. So those who follow one sighting and those who follow the other sighting, they're both, we're going to say both are correct. So it's just a difference of opinion. Just follow your local masjids, inshallah, and we will find, inshallah, correct. Moving on to lesson number 3, who should fast? So this is a very important matter that this every Muslim who has reached the age of puberty, we've mentioned this about puberty, sane and healthy, enough to observe the fast in Ramadan, it is fard upon them, on every able-bodied Muslim, male or female, to fast. Now, there are certain people who are exempted from fasting. So these can be categorized into 2. So some people are temporarily exempted, and some people are permanently exempted. So that's the leeway that the Sharia has given. So, for example, there's people like illness, travel, pregnancy, breastfeeding, severe hunger, severe thirst, old age. These are things that exempt a person from fasting. So, permanently exempted those who are young, below the age of puberty. So, I'd say, especially now, below the age, like looking at the signs and everything. So, say 7-year-olds or 6-year-olds, there's no way of them becoming the fast becoming fard. So where we see people are encouraging their children to fast, very young age children to fast, it's wrong for that, especially nowadays where the fasts are very long. Yeah, you can encourage your children today. Say, when we were younger, we used to do a double fast where you do sahri, then you do a lunch, and then you do iftar. So because it's not healthy for them. The second thing, those who are permanently sick, which implies pain, suffering, endangering one's health for life. So there's a lot of a vast category to that. Those who are permanently sick, diabetes and so forth. There's a lot of things to that. I'm not going to go into that again, but there's a lot of categories of permanently sick people. The second category of temporarily exempted, those who are traveling may not fast. Now, this is something which is debatable. Now, traveling in those days and nowadays is very simple. It's actually sometimes convenient for us to fast. But there's 2 things to remember here. That one is, in Ramadan, to fast is fard. But to fast in the month of Ramadan, it's a blessing in itself. So those who are traveling, yes, we might be thinking that we can make up that fast again, but the fasting in the month of Ramadan, the makan of fasting, the time of fasting, the waqt of fasting, which is the month of Ramadan, that blessing is not derived out of Ramadan. Yes, you'd get the reward for that, and your exemption of it is valid if you're traveling. And the second thing, women during pregnancy and lactation, if fasting would seriously affect the health of the mother or the baby. So this is something that a lot of sisters do ask as well. You have to. We can't put a blanket ruling for everybody. You have to look at individual cases and that who is healthy enough to do that, who isn't. A woman on her monthly course or an ill person may skip fasting during the days. So we also say like about old age, pregnancy, traveling, to use force against compliance, these things. So there's a lot of other reasonings as well. So if you do have underlying health issues, that you should contact your local ulama. Now, during this pandemic, COVID-19, there's an article on Islamic Portal that if somebody has the signs of coronavirus, are they exempted from fasting? Now, that comes to temporary exemption. It depends on the level of the coronavirus. Now, if they are finding it difficult to breathe and so forth, yes, it's advisable by medical advisors as well as ulama that not to fast. But depending on the level of which level they're at, we will put that on that thing. So, but that doesn't mean that you permanently exempt yourself from fasting. Okay. Now, another issue as well was discussed on Islamic portal again. Should be Samson, is that should doctors who are on frontline staff, should they not fast also? Same again. It all depends on two things. One is putting your life at risk, and number two is putting somebody else's life at risk. So we have to put a balance to that. How to make up the missed fast? So now, if somebody, there are several actions that, if performed during the day of Ramadan, results in nullification of the fasts. So now we mentioned that if somebody eats, drinks, or gets sexual gratification, the fast becomes invalid or breaks. So if a person breaks their fast, somebody breaks their fast for no reason at all, or for a reason, so they can be split into two categories. But there's two things that we have to know, which is Allah says in the Quran as well as the Sunnah has mentioned. One is qada and one is kafara. A lot of people get these two things muddled up. Qada is when we make up. So for example, if you miss your namaz, you have to make qaza of your namaz. You make qaza of your farz namaz. And the second thing is kafara, obligatory expiation in order to atone for the major violation of major sin. So if somebody, for example, when you go to Hajj, you have kafara there as well. That you have to give them. You have to give a certain amount of sadaqah, or you have to slaughter an animal and so forth. Same thing with fasting. If somebody misses the fast, sometimes you have to make up the fast as well as give a penalty, kafara. So there's two things here. The first category is where a person deliberately, on purpose, intentionally, with full yaqeen, that yes, I am fasting, it is the month of Ramadan, it is a fard fast. He mentally and physically, he knows he's fasting, he drinks, or he eats, or he gets sexual gratification. He deliberately does that. So there's three things that person has to do in order. There's no option of doing what. The following acts he has to do. The one is that he frees a slave, which is quite difficult nowadays. Finding freeing a slave, but there is still I think certain charities which look into that. Number two is where so freeing a slave, though if he does not have the means to do this, if you don't have the means to do this, so because freeing a slave is quite expensive, it's about 900 to 1,000 pounds. Number two, then he must fast 60 days consecutively. So in order, 60 days on the trot, he has to fast. So note that you should not do these 60 days in the days where the day of Eid will come in between, Eid al-Adha, where the 3 days are prohibited to fast, or even the day of Eid al-Fitr, we should have fasted. Okay? So the 60 days, not remember this, it's not 2 months, it's 60 days. Because in the Islamic calendar and in the English calendar, sometimes we have 28 days, sometimes we have 29 days. So in the Islamic calendar, we have 29 days or 30 days. So it has to be 60 days, counting 60 days. If you take a break in the middle, you have to start the 60 days again. So category one, deliberately, intentionally breaking a fast. The following acts invalidate the fast: eating or drinking, sexual intercourse, swallowing the salivas of one's spouse. So yes, having affection to your spouse is fine during fasting, but if you swallow the saliva of your spouse, then you fast deliberately, then your fast will break. Okay? If any of these actions are performed forgetfully, unintentionally, then they do not violate the fast. It's fine. The hadith says, the Prophet says, there's two hadiths I'll mention in Bukhari. Whoever forgets that he is fasting and eats or drinks, then he still completes his fast. It is only Allah who fed him and gave him a drink. So accidentally, unintentionally, you drank. This is both for nafal and for the fast. In another narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, if a fasting person eats forgetfully, it is only provision Allah put forth to him, and there is no makeup for him. So you don't have to do qaza even. So that's deliberate. If someone broke a few fasts, so now if a person deliberately, or he breaks, say in the month of Ramadan, he breaks a couple of fasts, does he have to do kafara for every single broken fast? Does he have to give a penalty for every single broken fast? Does he have to keep 60 fasts per fast? Or can he do something called tadakhul, which means combining all in one? So if somebody missed, say, 5 fasts, broke 5 fasts, does he have to keep 60 fasts per fast? Or does he have to keep kafara, free 5 slaves and so forth? So the expiation, like we said, is the first one is the freeing of the slave. Second one, if somebody cannot fast 60 days in a row, the third thing he can do is feed 60 unfortunate people twice a day. Or there's other ways of doing it, i.e. you feed one person 60 for 60 days and so on. This is the simplest thing we'll put. There's about 4 ways of putting this position together. So the feeding 60 unfortunate people twice a day to their fill. And obviously, it's quite difficult for us in the West to do that. But if we, in this current situation, if we know individual people who are in need of food and so forth, we should buy them provisions afterwards, and then give them that. So stipulation is around about £3 to £4. That's how much. So as some ulama say, we should look at the sadaqatul fitr and work it towards that. So the first thing the Quran says is free a slave. Number 2, 60 fasts in a row consecutively. Or number 3 is you feed 60 people twice a day to their fill. Now there is one point to remember here. If somebody cannot fast, so for example, a person who is exempted totally. So this is permanent exemption, not temporary one, like the one it mentions here, permanently exempted, which is here. So those people who are permanently ill, or now, if for example, so now the summer months of fasting, so it's long hours, 19, 20 hours, 18 hours fasting. So some people, what they do is that during the winter days, where the fasting is very short, they keep fasts with the intention of Ramadan qada. That doesn't work. Either you will do qada because you've broken the fast, or you will give kafara because you couldn't keep the fast. There is no such thing as in between. So if someone broke a fast, a few fasts in Ramadan, so 5 fasts we take that, can they do tadakhul, which is combining them all into one? So some of the schools, especially like the Ghair Madhabi or the Salafi school, they say that separate kafara for each fast. So if a person misses 5 fasts, they have to give kafara or expiation or penalty for each separate fast. In the Hanafi school, the scholars, there's 3 views. So if somebody missed, so we take the example of 5 fasts, they can be tadakhul of kafara for one Ramadan, not 2 separate ones. That's the basis of what Hazrat has mentioned this, that if a person has missed 5 fasts in this month, in 2019, and he's missed 5 fasts in 2018, so he can do tadakhul of 2019, that's one kafara, and tadakhul of 2018, and that's another kafara. It's 2 separate ones. That's the basis. Number B, the tadakhul can be of separate Ramadans as well. That's also mentioned in Besa Gohar. And the C, if the kafara was due to sexual intercourse, tadakhul can be one Ramadan only. So if you was, in Ahsan al-Fatawa, it's split into the reasoning why. So if the kafara was due to sexual intercourse, then the tadakhul, or the combination of several fasts to one, can be due for only one Ramadan. However, if it is due to eating and drinking, tadakhul can be of various Ramadans. So the example that we gave of if a person, say, I had broke a fast due to sexual gratification 2018 in Ramadan, then and then again in 2019, according to Ahsan al-Fatawa, you have to give 2 separate kafaras. But if a person in 2018 Ramadan, he ate and he broke his fast deliberately, and again in 2019 did the same thing, according to Ahsan al-Fatawa, you can combine both together. So you don't have to give 2 separate kafaras, you give one kafara. So these three views and fatwas have been checked by our esteemed Ustad Hazrat Mufti Sufi Tahir Sahib Damat Barakatuh from Blackburn. So this is about expiation, about temporary exemption, permanent exemption, and about tadakhul and so forth. There's a lot of misunderstanding about, especially this part of fiqh, that who should fast and who shouldn't fast. But do remember that it is a grave sin. It is a very, very severe sin not to fast if you have the capability to fast. Moving into lesson number 4. Sorry, just bear with me a moment. I'm just going to go back to. So I mentioned a category 1, which is deliberately breaking a fast. Category 2, which is accidentally. So if a person, so like I said, if a person deliberately breaks the fast, he has to do the 3 things, which is freeing a slave, fasting 60 days, or the third thing is feeding 60 people for 2 meals. What if a person accidentally breaks the fast? Accidentally performing an act that violates the fast. It also includes performing by force of a third party. So accidentally breaking a fast, unintentionally. So without, your mind and your heart does not know you're fasting. Yes, so you drink, or you're doing wudu sometimes. Sometimes you do kulli and you drink drink something without, and then afterwards you remember, oh, I'm fasting. It's fine. Or secondly, it's fine. But secondly, also, if somebody, in certain parts of the world where Muslims are persecuted and imprisoned, and they're forcefully fed, they fall under this category also. Accidentally means that one remembers one is fasting but broke. One does not remember that one is fasting, broke the fast by one's own doing without the intention to purposely break the fast. There's also other medical issues that we can go through, anemia, about injections and so forth. Inserting medicine through the anus or pouring medicine through the nostrils breaks the fast, whereas expiation is not required. So you don't have to give kafara, but you have to do qada. You don't have to give kafara, and you have to do qada. So if there is certain individual cases, please contact your local ulama about these medical conditions, inshallah. So either a person can deliberately break a fast or accidentally. If a person deliberately breaks a fast, there's qada as well as kafara. So he has to fast. So imagine he deliberately broke 5 fasts. He has to fast 5 times, 5 days after Ramadan. And then also is that he has to give kafara. There is a penalty to that. Moving on to the next lesson, which is what is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in completing his fast and in the suhoor. So there's different, I'm not going to go indulge in again about the different sahri end times for different masajid. Some people follow 15 degrees, 18 degrees, and so forth. Just follow your local masjid, advised by your local ulama. Do not indulge, again, the same thing again about where the starting of Ramadan and the ending of Ramadan. There's always be difference of opinion in this ummah. Just follow your local masjid about the end and the ending time of suhoor. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to break the fast as soon as possible, soon after sunset. Now, there is something here, if I can remember it properly, that there was a fatwa just recently from Blackburn, the muftis of Blackburn, that they said that after the Maghrib Adhan, 5 minutes or certain amount of time will be left to, and then iftar will be done. The reason being for this is because in UK, what happens is that sometimes, especially in the summer months, it's very difficult to calculate the exact moment of sunset and sunrise. So it's best, yes, when it means soon as possible, it means that we shouldn't delay too long the iftar. Yes, we should delay a little bit. There's been certain cases in the past where people accidentally have given adhan early, and people have taken iftar, listened to the radio frequencies at home, radios at home, and then there's been other issues fiqh issues that have come apart. So we should delay a little bit, and then a couple of minutes, and then do the iftar, inshallah. The Prophet used to break fast with dates, water, and milk. Salman ibn Amir al-Dhuhbi radiallahu ta'ala relates that the Prophet said, break your fast with dates or else with water, for it's pure. So this is a sunnah. So what we should do is, we should try and, especially nowadays, the best advisable thing to do is break your fast with dates, water, or even milk, and a little bit of fruit. Then pray your Maghrib Salah, pray your Awabin, and then have your iftar. If you have it too much, then you will delay our Maghrib Salah and so forth. So these are the Sunnah du'as that we learn. There's others as well from the Sunnah. Now, one masla we should remember: fasting after dawn. If one eats the suhoor or has sexual intercourse during which he has doubt about the rising of the dawn, wherein in reality it had already dawned, then the expiation is not imposed on such a person. So if a person accidentally, what happens is that he didn't know the Sahri end time, and he accidentally carried on eating, and then he noticed, oh, it's Sahri end time. The fast won't be valid because it was out of ignorance. He didn't know the time. There's no expiation to that. There's no penalty to that. Now, one thing to note here: a lot of calendars in our households, Ramadan calendars especially, there's two things. One is Sahri end time, and then it says Fajr beginning time. So Sahri end time and Fajr beginning time. Please note this: that Sahri end time, it's an advisable thing that it's usually about 10 minutes before. Put 10 minutes before the Fajr end time. Fajr beginning time. Fajr beginning time. The Fajr beginning time is actually when the Sahri ends, i.e. the fast begins. The Fajr beginning is where the fast begins. The reason why the masjids and the ulama put Sahri end time is just that, so that 10 minutes people have is so they can brush their teeth and they can do kulli and get ready to start the fasting, and also pray the Tahajjud Salah at that time. It's advisable to end by then, but literally if you don't have the time, you can't eat until the Fajr beginning time. That's the Hazrat, if I'm not mistaken, the Shaykh Zakaria Rahmatullahi mentions about Allah. If one of the ulama from the Indian Peninsula, they were eating together, two of them eating together. They're very famous. I think it was Maulana Shibitami Rahmatullahi, if I'm not mistaken. And one of them was eating right until the muadhin was calling the adhan. So his was that we can eat until the end of the adhan. So it's advisable to end, a couple of minutes before the Fajr end time. So if there is stroking our teeth, we can brush our teeth with toothpaste and so forth, and get ready to start our Ramadan fast. But if a person accidentally eats over that time, then there is no expiation. There is no penalty for that. At the end, Hazrat Anas related, the Prophet said, take the suhoor meal for there are blessings in it. So especially nowadays, a lot of youth, what they do, a lot of people actually, what they do is they'll eat iftar, they'll eat a big meal, they'll pray the tarawih, they'll eat a small snack, and they'll go to sleep, praying Fajr early time, go to sleep and wake up for work or go for Zuhr. It's sunnah to have suhoor. Suhoor is sunnah, and it's a blessing in it also. So we should wake up early, have a little bit of suhoor, even if it's water, even if it's dates, whatever it is, a little bit we should have, inshallah. Moving on to lesson 5, the morals and behaviors in Ramadan. Some disliked acts. So the Prophet has said 5 things breaks one's fast: lying, backbiting, spreading rumors, false testimony, and a lustful gaze. Towards the end is the hadith that mentioned that the Prophet said fasting is a shield. So the person observing the fast should avoid sexual relations with the spouse and should not behave foolishly and imprudently. If somebody fights with him or abuses him, he should say twice that I am fasting, and he should walk away. Some things which are disliked when fasting. There are 6 things which are disliked when fasting: to taste something with no reason. So these are some things that morals and behaviors is chewing, kissing, caressing, gathering saliva in one mouth and swallowing it together. Any act which is believed to weaken one from fasting, cupping, blood testing, and so forth. So appointments, especially now, it's going to be very difficult. Actually, that will be easier because getting a doctor's appointment is quite impossible now for normal checkup with this lockdown. So the Prophet ﷺ said, many people who fast get nothing from fasting except hunger and thirst. Many people who pray at night get nothing from it except absence of sleep. There are 7 things which are allowed, which are not disliked, but allowed. So kissing and caressing is not disliked, provided one is sure and is control of himself. Rubbing oil into the beard and mustache, the application of cold into the eyes, surma, cupping, it's not disliked, but if the person has strength, even to use the siwak, to use the miswak is advisable, but using toothpaste or mouthwash or even flavored miswak is makruh. Reason being is because one can swallow the saliva which has a taste to it. Rinsing the mouth and nostrils for wudu are not makruh or not disliked, but we should be careful when we are rinsing the mouth. We should not gargle so that the water does not seep through our throats. Moving on to lesson number 6, prayer in Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ, the first thing is about the importance of the 5 daily prayers. The 5 daily prayers, the Prophet ﷺ has encouraged us so much to pray our Salah. There's many virtues of Salah. One of the most fundamental things and the most important I'll mention to you is that every act of Sharia the Prophet ﷺ got in the Quran or in Sunnah was revealed on the earth. So be it Ramadan, be it Hajj, be it Zakat, and so forth. But there's only one act which the Prophet ﷺ was called to the heavens, which is the act of Salah. And we know the famous story in Mi'raj where the Prophet went to the heavens to get the gift of Salah. Because Salah, or prayer, the 5 daily prayers, it's actually a conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually revealed 50 salahs first, and it came down to 5. And Allah says, the Prophet has said that if a person prays 5 daily salah, he'll get the reward of praying 50. So especially nowadays, in the month of Ramadan, we should never ever miss our first salah. And then he says that the 5 daily salah, which must be performed by every single Muslim for the minimal requirement for a Muslim to adhere to it, it has been emphasized to perform the salah with jama'ah congregation at the masjid. But now with the current lockdown, we are not allowed in the masjid, but we can pray salah with jama'ah at home. There's many diagrams out there how to stand in salah. If you have, many people have explained how to explain salah. So I'm not going to, but we should choose the person who is most knowledgeable and who has qira'at and so forth. So in the month of Ramadan, there is a special type of prayer which is called Salatul Tarawih. Now, Salatul Tarawih, it is sunnah to pray 20 rak'ats. Now, there is an argument between different groups that some say that we should pray 8, some say we should pray 20. Now, the 20 rak'at is an emphasized sunnah. We know from the seerah, from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that the Prophet ﷺ prayed 3 to 4 days. 3 days he led the Sahabas in Salah, in Tarawih Salah in the month of Ramadan. And then at the time of Abu Bakr and the beginning of Hazrat Umar, it was in the 14th year of Hijrah that Hazrat Umar gathered the Sahabas together and they prayed in the congregation. Now, some people question the fact that did the Sahabas pray 20 rakats Tarawih? Yes, there is hadith to prove that they prayed 20 rakats Tarawih. So people say that it is not a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. They use the hadith of Aisha that she says, and they use the hadith of Tahajjud Salah, where Imam Bukhari has mentioned under the title actually of Qiyamul Layl, which is the night prayer. And in that, the hadith says that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray in Ramadan and after Ramadan. And that's clearly stating that those 8 rak'ats were not actually Tarawih, which were actually Tahajjud. So at the time of the Sahabas, they used to pray the 20 rak'ats Tarawih, and then they used to pray the 8 rak'ats Tahajjud also. So those people who say that at the time of the Prophet ﷺ there was no Tarawih, there is also there is also text to prove that the Prophet did pray Tarawih. At the time of Sahabas, from the time of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, congregations were made because individually people used to pray in the masjid. And Hazrat Umar saw this at the congregation, small jamaats were gathering, that 4 or 5 people, 2 or 3 people praying the Tarawih together in Ramadan. Hazrat Umar gathered everybody together and under one Sahabi, and they prayed the Tarawih Salah. So if somebody questions the fact that it was an invention by Hazrat, innovation by Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, the question arises of things like, for example, the Mus'haf of the Quran that we see. It was compiled by Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu. Actually, sorry, the first compilation happened by Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr compiled the first one, and then Hazrat Uthman compiled various of the versions. That's why we call Mus'haf Uthmani, where we see every single masajid, every single masjid in the whole of the world, even in the Haramain, that we have 2 adhans for Jum'ah. And at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, at the time of Abu Bakr, Umar, it was only at the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu that he started the second adhan for Jum'ah. And the Prophet ﷺ says in a hadith, the Khairul Qurun, that we take Sharia. When we take Sharia from Quran, Sunnah, and the practices of the Sahabas. So it was the practice of the Sahabas to pray the 20 rakats. So those who pray the 8 rakats, they miss out on 2 sunnahs. Most masajid that I have seen who pray the 8 rakats miss out 2 sunnahs. One sunnah is the sunnah of the 20 rakats. And the second sunnah, it is sunnah to pray 20 rakats of Tarawih. And a second sunnah in Tarawih is to pray the full Quran. In Tarawih is a second sunnah. So those brothers and sisters who pray the 8 rakats, they miss out. Yes, if they are praying the full Quran in the 8 rakats, then they are lengthening their prayers, which is that sunnah is there then. But one of our teachers used to say that on the Day of Judgment, if those brothers on the Day of Judgment, if people who are praying 8 rakats were incorrect, they actually missed out 12 rakats. And those people who prayed the 20 rakats, they actually praying the 8 rakats, and the 12 rakats are extra Nawāfil. And what I have seen as well in my travels, and I have been to, alhamdulillah, many countries to the Tarawih, I have seen those people who pray the 8 rakats, all they're doing is going outside the masjid, or even in the masjid compound, and they're just staying there and talking until the end of Tarawih finishes, the 20 rakats. So anyway, so it is advisable, it is best, it is sunnah to mu'akkada, sunnah, emphasize sunnah to pray the 20 rakats Tarawih, which is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, as well as and in congregation, it is sunnah from the life of, from the time of Hazrat Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, from the Sahabas. So we should, questioning the fact that Sahabas, it was an innovation from the Sahabas, saying that, then we should look at other things as well that was invented by the Sahabas also, and not abide by that. Salat Tarawih during this current lockdown, one of the things, that we are going to miss out on is going to the masjid during this month of Ramadan and praying in the masjid, the light of that. We're going to miss that. But one thing to note is that what we are going to see is a lot more jama'ats happening, a lot more Quran tilawat, Tarawih jama'ats happening in individual homes. Number 2, the people now, like Jum'ah, the ulama have said that those people who are frequent in going Jum'ah or going to the masjid to pray the 5 daily Salah, even in this current lockdown, when they pray the Salah at home, they get the same reward because the practice was stopped not by their own individual act. It was stopped because of the pandemic. So the rewards of praying in the masjid are also met. So that in the current lockdown. The third thing, those places who do not offer women to pray Salah, at least now the women can join in Jamaat in these individual homes. And the third thing, those who had, there's questions arising that, brothers who are, of a mature age, and they have children who are under the age of 14, 13, even 12, 11, who are praying for beautiful Quran, who can pray Quran al-Tajweed, who have memorized certain portions of the Quran. So the question arises, can they lead us in Salah, i.e. the parents or the older siblings and the household in Salah. So in the Hanafi madhab, until the age of 14, 13, 14, that's the breaking age. We should because we should allow them to lead the Salah. There isn't a need yet for that. So it's advisable for those brothers who, the elders or the fathers or the elder brothers, it's a time for them to learn the tajweed properly and memorize certain portions of the Quran so they can lead the family in Salah. So this is the current lockdown thing. The second part, witr Salah. The witr prayer should not be neglected, as the Prophet ﷺ never missed it. So in Ramadan, we pray our Taraweeh after praying the Isha Salah. So after the Isha Farz and Isha Sunnah, we pray our Taraweeh, and then we pray our witr Salah with Jamaat also. Moving on to the seventh lesson, charity during Ramadan. So there's three types of charity, or that we should be giving in Ramadan, and two which are in Ramadan and out of Ramadan. In Hadith, there is two types of charities that are mentioned. One is Zakatul Farz Zakat, and one is Nafal Sadaqah. So what we have differentiated between Lillah, Sadaqah, and Zakat. Lillah, Sadaqah, and Zakat. Lillah and Sadaqah actually both the same thing. What's categorized in Sharia as optional charity. And Zakat is what we stipulate as obligatory charity. Yeah. So in Ramadan, there is one type of charity which is called Zakatul Fitr or Sadaqatul Fitr. So Sadaqatul Fitr is, actually, one second. I'm just going to share one more page.
Yeah, that's fine, Maulana. Jazakallah.
So this is the Sadaqatul Fitr. How we Sadaqatul Fitr calculated. So charity to purify the fasting person. So Sadaqatul Fitr can be given before, as soon as Ramadan starts, anytime during Ramadan, all the way till before the Eid Salah. So anytime before in Ramadan, it can be. Most people, what they tend to do is leave it till Eid Salah, which is not advisable. It's best to give your Sadaqatul Fitr in the beginning of Ramadan, so it can be passed on to the needy people by Eid, so they can enjoy the Eid. So the Prophet ﷺ ordained Zakatul Fitr or Sadaqatul Fitr, or what we call Fitrana, to purify fasting person from indecent words or actions, and to provide food for the needy. So remember the hadith I said that lying and backbiting and so forth breaks the fast. So this is like an expiation or a compensation for zakat, for the fasting person. Now, if so, the different levels of depending on your income or depending on your status, the stipulated amount of Sadaqatul Fitr varies. So the least that we should be giving per person is £3. Yeah, there's other amounts as well. There is £2.40. But we say a meal for a person, which is according to the wheat price, which is about £3. Then it goes up to barley, raisins, dates. You can also give ajwa, which is I calculated last year was about £85, which worked out to be. So Zakatul Fitr can be given. Sadaqatul Fitr can be given all the way to, it has to be given before the Eid Salah. So it's advisable to be given to be passed on before during the beginning of Ramadan. So that's the first type of charity in Ramadan. The second type of charity, which we can say, is the Nafal Sadaqah or Lillah, that we say. Lillah or Sadaqah, Nafal Sadaqah. One of our ulama, Sheikh Sayyid Dorat, he mentioned the beautiful quote. He says, during every night of Ramadan, spend at least £1 in charity. If it happens to be Laylatul Qadr, you will receive the reward of spending £1 every day for 83 years. So remember, in Ramadan, in Sharia, one reward is multiplied by 10, and in Ramadan it is multiplied by 700. So you will get the reward for 700 anyway. But if it is Laylatul Qadr, it is as if you are spending for 83 years more, 83 years every day. So try to give whatever it is, if it's 10 pence, £1, whatever. Encourage your children, have a bag of change of 20p, 30p, 50p, and tell your children to give a stipulated amount every day into a charity box. Try also to, to do a standing order throughout the whole month of Ramadan to a charity where you can stipulate £1 or 50p, £1, whatever, every day, every night, to give to charity, so that you are under this, that you will get the reward for £700 or 700 multiple of 700 in the month of Ramadan, whatever money you spend in the month of Ramadan. And the third type of charity, which is zakat, which is the fard charity. Zakat during the month of Ramadan is recommended to give because you get the extra reward. Yeah, so most people calculate their zakat from Ramadan to Ramadan. Yeah, so they get the extra reward. So the 2.5% of your savings of a period of a full 1 lunar year. Now, the best, a person, zakat is fard upon a person who meets the required amount of silver, gold, or currency, which is called the nisab. One of the most updated and most a very good website that I use usually is wellwishes.org.uk. Wellwishes.org.uk. It's quite updated with nisab of Mehr Fatimi and nisab of zakat, of silver, gold, and everything in all valuations of dollars, of all currencies. It's quite updated quite regularly. We should try and use that. So today's nisab on the 21st of April is of which the gold of the nisab is of silver is £239.21, and gold is £3,812, or nearly £13 in fact. So if a person has that much amount of money, savings, which he has had for 1 full lunar year, then he should give zakat upon that, upon all his savings. Okay, well, try and contact your local ulama. You can even ask, contact us by email to help you calculate the zakat fully, properly. The Prophet ﷺ, in his sermon on the last day of the month of Sha'ban, mentioned, he who fulfills an obligation in it will be like he has fulfilled 70 obligations. So one nafil, doing a nafil act in the month of Ramadan, it's like the reward of a fard, and one fard is multiplied 70 faraid. Yeah. Moving on to lesson number 8, Ramadan and extra reward. So this is what we mentioned about this. I'll just mention read the hadith that it says here, that fasting is mine. Allah says, the Prophet Abu Hurairah reports that the Prophet said, Allah says, so it's a hadith Qudsi, fasting is mine, and it is I who give reward for it. A man who gives up sexual passion, his food and drink, for my sake, fasting is like a shield. So on the day of judgment, Allah will reward, some say himself, and some say Allah will give us the reward for the fast we have kept, if our fast is good enough. A good deed done in Ramadan equals to 70 good deeds. So saying one subhanallah now is reward to one subhanallah. And saying one subhanallah in the month of Ramadan next week, you'll be rewarded to 70 times. This is just one of the blessings of Allah. So these are some of the, so in the month of Ramadan, we should reap as much as reward as possible as we can. Moving on to lesson number 9, which is i'tikaf. So this is another thing, a lot of questions have come about doing i'tikaf during the lockdown. So the mother of the believers, Aisha, says that the Prophet ﷺ would always perform i'tikaf in the last 10 days of Ramadan until Allah took his soul, until he passed away. Now there are 3 types of i'tikaf. One i'tikaf is what we call the wajib or the necessary i'tikaf. The second i'tikaf is a sunnah i'tikaf. The third i'tikaf is a nafil i'tikaf. The wajib i'tikaf is what a vow. So a person, he vows something that if he has a court case, if this court case comes out, results come out good, or if I pass my driving, I will do i'tikaf for 3 days. So the vow i'tikaf will require a person to do in the state of fasting. So whatever he has stipulated, that he has to do. Number 2, the sunnah i'tikaf would emphasize sunnah, which is in the month of Ramadan, which is the last 10 days of Ramadan. So this, the sunnah, emphasize sunnah i'tikaf is the last 10 days of Ramadan. It's not only, it cannot be done in the first 10 days or the middle 10 days, it's the last 10 days of Ramadan. The scholars did not stipulate that person has to be in the state of fasting, because obviously it's in the month of Ramadan and the person will be in the state of fasting anyway. And the last type of i'tikaf is the nafil i'tikaf, which can be done any time, and there is no condition of the person being in the state of fasting. Now, women doing i'tikaf, can women perform i'tikaf? Women should perform i'tikaf in the masjid of their homes, meaning that a room should be stipulated where women can seclude themselves and stay there for 10 days and 10 nights, and in the last 10 days of Ramadan, and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not get disturbed, and not to indulge in cooking, cleaning, and so forth. So it should be a designated area in the masjid, in the house. Sorry. During this current lockdown, can men do i'tikaf in the homes? Yes, why not? It's good to do that also, but obviously do understand that. I mean, do make an understanding between your family that the children are at home as well. You know, I have a bit of understanding that what kind of i'tikaf should be, but for the men that will not be stipulated as sunnat muakkada i'tikaf, the sunnah i'tikaf. For the women, it will be. Why do people do i'tikaf? It's called a spiritual retreat, and there's two reasons why I mentioned here. There's many other reasons. One is, the main thing is Laylatul Qadr. At the bottom, he says Laylatul Qadr, or the night of power. Allah says in the Quran, as Surah Al-Qadr, he mentioned the full surah about Laylatul Qadr, that a night which is better than 1,000 months is mentioned in the Quran, as being the night of which the Quran was sent down to the world. As Aisha relates, that the Prophet said, look for Laylatul Qadr on the odd number of nights during the last 10 nights of Ramadan. So people do i'tikaf for this reason, so they can stay awake at night time and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially during the 21st, 23rd, 25th, 27th, and 29th night, these 5 nights, especially. We should make a firm intention and work towards now that in those nights especially, we will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all night, because the nights are going to be very short, very short. So, and the children will be at home anyway, so we don't have to wake up early for school. So we can stipulate time to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the night. And the second reason why people do i'tikaf also is the tahajjud salah and other forms of ibadah. It's seclusion. You know, i'tikaf is actually a sunnah of the prophets. That Ibrahim alayhi salam used to do i'tikaf. The Hazrat Musa alayhi salam did i'tikaf for 40 days. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him to Mount Tur for 40 days. And he stayed in i'tikaf. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, before revelation even, he used to seclude himself in a Ghar Hira. You know, we know from the seerah that Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha used to take his food. Sometimes he used to stay there for 2-3 days, 2-3 nights. He used to stay there. He used to seclude himself. And the reason for this is that we detach ourselves from the worldly life, worldly affairs, and we just focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a little while. So one is Laylatul Qadr. Secondly, also Tahajjud Salah. Salat al-Tahajjud. Inshallah, in the last few minutes, I'll go through the last section of this booklet. We'll have a section, 2-3 sides on different types of Nawafil Salah that we can perform. So this is Laylatul Qadr and the Tahajjud Salah. Tahajjud, many rewards for Tahajjud Salah. The Prophet ﷺ always performed Tahajjud Salah in his life. And the last lesson we go through is lesson number 10, Eid Salah, Eid al-Fitr. Now, we mentioned about giving fitrana or Sadaqatul Fitr before the Eid Salah. Now, in this current situation, within the lockdown, will we have Eid Salah? We want to have more towards the end of Ramadan. We will understand better that we have Eid Salah or not. Now, Eid Salah cannot be performed at home, cannot be performed in congregation at home. Eid Salah is a wajib Salah, and if it happens in the masjid, we will go to the masjid and pray Salah, inshallah. But before the Eid Salah, before the day of Eid, we should give our Sadaqatul Fitr. Towards the end, it mentions about the fasts of Shawwal. So after the month of Ramadan, the 10th month on the Islamic calendar is Shawwal. Hazrat Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu ta'ala relates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whosoever fasts in the month of Ramadan, then follows it up with 6 fasts of Shawwal, it is as if though he has kept a fast throughout the whole year. And how does that come? This is because one good deed, one reward is multiplied by 10 folds. So 36, which is the 30 days of Ramadan and the 6 days of Shawwal, will be 360. It is mustahab to keep the fast of Shawwal. It is mustahab, it is desirable. It is not farz. Now a person can keep the first six, he should miss the first of Shawwal, which is because it is the day of Eid al-Fitr, um, and then he should fast. He can keep, from the second to the onwards for 6 consecutive days, or he keep any days in the 6 days of fast. Now, ladies, we cannot combine the 6 Shawwal fast with the Qada of Ramadan. You can't combine the intentions together. You have to keep the Qada fasting separately and the Shawwal fast separately. So that's the end of the 10 lessons of the fiqh, of the Islamic jurisprudence, the rulings of fasting in the month of Ramadan, and also some advice on how to gain the full fruits of Ramadan and what the Sunnah acts of the Prophet were during Ramadan. Just the last section we will go through, inshallah, of this booklet, which there's some hadith here, supplications in Ramadan, Nawafil fast, Nawafil Salah, optional prayers. So these are some of the optional prayers from the Sunnah. So Tahiyatul Wudu. So after performing wudu, we can pray 2 rak'ats. And remember this in the madhab, we have to understand that certain times when it is makruh to pray Salah, Nawafil Salah, which is after sunrise for 10 minutes, before sunset as well, until the sun is setting, and the zawal time. So these 3 times you should avoid to pray the Nawafil Salah. So Tahiyatul Wudu is 2 rak'ats. It is the reward of he who observes 2 rak'ats with full devotion after performing wudu becomes entitled to enter Jannah. Salatul Ishraq and Salatul Duha. Now in hadith it is mentioned about Salatul Duha. The word Salatul Duha comes. There is no such thing as Chasht and Ishraq. Now in hadith the Prophet ﷺ sometimes used to pray Salatul Duha in the beginning, just after sunrise, which we have taken as Salatul Ishraq. And sometimes the Prophet ﷺ used to pray the Salatul Duha in the mid-morning, which is around about 10, 11, say around about 12:30. And that's what we have called it as Chasht Salah. But and the stipulation of rak'ats also differed in hadith. So 2 rak'ats to 4 rak'ats for Salatul Ishraq. So but we should try and pray both, so then we can more reward in Nafal Salah, especially in Ramadan. So the Prophet ﷺ used to pray Salatul Ishraq just after sunrise, 10 minutes after sunrise, which is 10-15 minutes after sunrise, 2 to 4 rakats. And Salatul Chasht, which is up to 12 rakats, you can pray mid-morning all the way till Zawal time. Tahiyatul Masjid, that we want to have it this lockdown. Salat Tawbah, at the time of Ramadan, it is the time where we should ask for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salat Tawbah is something that we should be doing. Salatul Hajat, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salatul Awabin, 6 to 20 rak'ats after Maghrib Salah. So I mentioned before that when we're doing iftar, have your dates and water and milk and a bit of fruit and pray your Maghrib Salah, your Sunnats and your Salatul Awabin. There is many rewards for this of Salatul Awabin. Another Salah during the night, we can pray Salatul Tahajjud. وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَتَحَجَّدْ بِهِ نَافِلَةً لَكَ, that Allah, the Prophet ﷺ used to pray the Tahajjud Salah during the nights, every night, even in Ramadan and out of Ramadan. And the last one of the forms of Nawafil Salah mentioned is Salatul Tasbih. This is a very lengthy Salah, but we should try and at least pray it once, if not at least try and make a habit of praying every Fridays or something. This can be performed any time. There is no stipulated time. But the makruh times are mentioned at the bottom. Fajr beginning until 20 minutes. It says 20 minutes, but 10-15 minutes is fine. At the end of time of Zawal, after the Salah, till Maghrib sunset. So these are the 10 lessons and some of the things that we should be doing. Increase in our Quran tilawat. We should try and at least finish twice Quran tilawat, especially through this lockdown. If you pray certain amount of pages every day, 4 to 5 pages every Salah, which will only take you 10-15 minutes if you are a fast reader. And this will help us, every letter we read, we'll get the reward of 700, inshallah. Inshallah, we'll keep it here. Inshallah, we'll end it here. If anybody has any questions, inshallah, by all means, you're welcome to send the questions by email, message, or even, inshallah, just any comments. Jazakallah khair. Wa akhir da'wan. Alhamdulillah. Is that Maulana?
Yeah. There was one question, I think you've answered it. So can male members do i'tikaf at home this year?
Like I said, it will be calculated, it will be counted as the sunnah i'tikaf. See, there's two things we have to understand about i'tikaf. One is that it's actually a communal obligation. So one person in the whole locality has to do i'tikaf. Now, in the masjid is not considered as the home is not considered as a masjid for a male person. So that's why the communal obligation will not be lifted due to that. So he can perform. It's probably like a nafal i'tikaf will be like during Ramadan.
No more questions, Maulana.
جزاك الله خير. ان شاء الله بالله. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.